Hello and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that takes you through F1's worst teams since 2010 to the present day, whenever that may be, driving those back-of-the-grid cars in the often fruitless hunt for glory. And we're in 2011, round number 3 in China, driving the Lotus/Caterham, although it wouldn't be Caterham just yet, Lotus T128 in place of Heikki Kovalainen, and we are 2 rounds into this season, and results haven't been great. Not as good anyway as we had in 2010, scoring that point on debut for Virgin Racing before it all kind of fell apart to mid-season. The performances here, though, have been consistently slow, but consistent. I'll show you what I mean as we look at the standings. We're 18th overall with 0 points, but ahead of Paul Di Resta's Force India, ahead of both HRTs, both of the Virgin Racing cars, and our teammate, Jarno Trulli. That by virtue of the fact that we qualified, I think it was 19th in Australia. I want to say 19th. Let's have a look. It was 18th in Australia, which is where we finished. We qualified 19th in Malaysia, but managed to come through for a P15, which doesn't sound like much, but it kind of demonstrated where we're at in 2011. We're still on legendary AI as we were through 2010, but the AI has clearly taken a step up, and this car, without Kurz, along with the Virgin Racing and HRT cars, often found off the pace in real life. So we're kind of aping real life, being the best of the new teams, as they were still known, I think, at this point. Mainly because Lotus, or Team Lotus as we are now, were, for the whole, the best of the new teams. It wasn't until 2013 in that miraculous single point. A couple of points, was it? I think it might have just been 1, maybe 2. We'll get there in 2013 when Bianchi took those points for Marussia at Monaco. But as I say, we're 18th, sat down there at the back, but in amongst the Williamses, the Force Indias, the Saubers, the kind of cars you'd expect. You can see Nico Rosberg in 13th, not having a good season. And the first of the point scorers is Sebastian Buemi. Perez has got points in his debut season. Petrov has got some points. Schumacher up there as well. The top 6 is as you'd expect, but Felipe Massa is the man leading it by 7 points from Vettel and Webber, who are a further 3 ahead of Jenson Button, and then it's Alonso Hamilton. Massa came through to win in Malaysia, and that's really helped his cause. He's had a very consistent first couple of rounds of the season. In the Constructors, as you'd expect, Team Lotus P10 ahead of Marussia Virgin Racing and HRT on the same number of points as Williams and Force India. Red Bull, though, lead the Constructors by 4 ahead of Ferrari, with McLaren in 3rd, quite a distance away from our namesake, Lotus Renault, with Mercedes Toro Rosso level on points and Sauber just in behind. But China, as you'll see from this particular email, we're expecting a wet race in Shanghai. Now, I've not driven a wet race in F1 2011 since probably 2012, before we got to the new game at that point, the 2012 game. So this is going to be a bit of a step into the unknown, but as we've demonstrated in the first couple of rounds, the handling model was very much changed about between 2010 and 2011, means I can drive like a hooligan, which is kind of what I drive like anyway. If you've seen me in SimRace Online's WRC videos, go and check those out as well if you wish. And in the first 2 rounds of this particular season, we can get on the power without too much hassle. Yes, I am running some assists, but that's because I don't have time, really, to try and master these games again. It's been 14, 15 years since I even bothered picking them up. The only one of the older games that I've played more recently, other than through this series, was, I think, F1 2013, which I think is installed on this console. Primarily because it was there and the 360 was set up. It's the only reason I've touched it. So we're stepping very much into the unknown here at Shanghai, but it's a circuit we know, and a race we had a pretty decent showing at, and up to a point in 2010. We're fighting amongst that sort of clutch of midfield cars, your Toro Rossos, your Williams, your Force Indias, your Saubers. until we made a mistake and crashed out our teammate at the time, Lucas Di Grassi. Hopefully, we won't have the same with Jarno Trulli here, but maybe, just maybe, the weather conditions can level this up for us. That's the hope, anyway. Why don't we get to practice, find our way back around Shanghai in 2011, and while we do, we'll talk about the 2011 Chinese Grand Prix. The third round of the 2011 season saw the field head back to China in the Shanghai circuit, with Sebastian Vettel leading the Drivers' Championship by almost a full race win from Jenson Button after a perfect start to his title defence. And it was Vettel that led the way through all three sessions, his rivals seemingly scrabbling to come close to the German, trading places behind in a fight that was really for best of the rest.
You're showing good pace for qualifying at the moment. Keep it up.
Nick Heidfeld in the Lotus Renault endured two troubled sessions, crashing in both first and second sessions, while Jerome D'Ambrosio was the only other notable incident during the practice sessions, losing part of his front wing in the final sector of the final session. It was a familiar story in the first part of qualifying, with the Team Lotus, Virgin Racing and HRT cars dropping out in Q1, but they were joined by an ailing Mark Webber in the Red Bull, whose car had developed electrical problems in the third practice session that hampered his time in qualifying, meaning he'd have to start out in 18th place on the grid. Michael Schumacher was the quote-unquote surprise in Q2. Sort of not a surprise at most points in 2011. Especially seeing as his teammate Rosberg had led the way at the end of the first part of qualifying, Schumacher only managed P14 on the grid. He was joined by both Williams and both Sauber cars along with Heidfeld and Sutil, while Petrov made it to Q3, but he was unable to compete in the session after stopping out on track. Sebastian Vettel, though, continued his perfect start to the season, taking pole by 7 tenths per second from Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton, while Paul Di Resta scored a great 8th place for Force India, being joined in Q3 by both Toro Rossos, Rosberg and both Ferraris. Just prior to the start of the Grand Prix, McLaren found a fuel problem with Lewis Hamilton's car, just about getting him out of the pits in the allotted time, 35 seconds to spare so we could take the start of the race from the grid rather than the pit lane, which the team would be rewarded for as both Hamilton and Button jumped Vettel off the line. The German almost lost another position to countryman Rosberg through the first couple of turns, just about managing to fend off Mercedes, while Button led Hamilton away. Rosberg continued to duel with Vettel, defending champion eventually boxing out Rosberg at turn 6, which led then to Massa and Alonso to have a crack at the Mercedes, but Rosberg managed to defend from the pair of scarlet cars. At the back, Mark Webber was making steady progress in the early stages, avoiding any major incidents, moving to the midfield after just a few laps. It wouldn't be until the first pit stops there'd be any major incidents really though, as Jaime Alguersuari's Toro Rosso would leave the pits with a poorly fitted right wheel, which detached as it led down the track and led eventually to the Spaniard's retirement. At 15 would see the leaders pit, Button being followed in by Vettel, but Jenson kind of forgot which team he was driving for, stopped briefly in the Red Bull pit box, realised his mistake, quickly moved to the McLaren pit box. Cost them both time, Button more so though, as Vettel jumped in through the pit stop phase. There were some great battles up and down the field, particularly between Alonso and Schumacher, who'd gone to a slightly alternate strategy. They duelled really hard but really fair over a number of laps, very reminiscent of the 2005-2006 Renault versus Ferrari battles that they had. Alonso eventually, though, came out on top with an up and under move at the hairpin. As mentioned, there were multiple different strategies playing out. Lewis Hamilton notably aimed for a 3-stop while his closest rivals were all aiming on a 2-stop strategy, as the grip difference with fresher tyres was incredibly evident. Trust me, go and watch the highlights from this Grand Prix. The overtakes were really easy for people on fresher tyres or slightly different compound. Hamilton made a move on button on lap 36 to take second with a strong move at the inside into the first corner, but he would still need to pit again. After his third stop though, he went on a bit of a passing spree. He got past Button, duelled with and then passed Rosberg and Massa in fairly quick order, while a little further behind him, Mark Webber was still decimating the gap to the leaders, closing up to Button, Rosberg and Massa in the closing stages. It meant that with just a few laps to go, we had Hamilton versus Vettel for the win, and Webber looking to try and make his way onto the podium. All of those things came to pass. Hamilton would come through to take the victory, passing Vettel with just a few laps left of the race, while Mark Webber took a sensational third place. This race was also the first of what became a bit of a trend in 2011 of breaking records in races. With only one retirement, it set the record for most finishes, 23, a record that was again broken this season in just a few rounds' time. What can we do here in China then? Well, this is a power circuit, and we're a slow car. But there is rain expected, both in qualifying and in the race, which may be a great leveller for us. Otherwise, we would really likely be nowhere. You know, I actually think we might just about sneak into Q2, which, considering as the real-life team Lotus had only made Q2 twice in their first season, and I think at this point hadn't made Q3 in 2011, or Q2, sorry, in 2011, never made Q3, we might be able to get the jump on a few guys just using the weather to our advantage. If we get the conditions right, we get the tyre choices correct, I think we can snag 16th place, but maybe we can hope for a little bit more if we just get the lap together at the right time. Here we are then, the garage for qualifying at the Chinese Grand Prix, and as you can see, the rain has well and truly come along.
But give it your best shot.
You may not have been able to hear Andy the engineer over me there, but getting out of this session is going to be a struggle. The rain might be a great leveller. I'm kind of hoping that it is. But so far, 2 rains in, 2 Q1 knockouts. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't be the same here. But let's get out there, see what our fastest lap in Q1 does for our standing.
Conditions are really poor. Everyone seems to be struggling for grip.
Thanks very much, Andy the engineer. As you can see, terrible conditions for our fastest lap in Q1. Conditions didn't really change through the first part of the qualifying session. It was like this all the way through. And as you can see, it's taken a few laps to really get up to any speed. A 45.7 still puts us somewhere nicely in the middle of the pack, but this lap just seemed to get it all hooked up. Nice and clean through turns 1 and 2, already half a second up by the time we reach this section of track at the end of the first sector. These 2 sweeping corners, the left, right here, always a little bit of a difficulty in these conditions. Have to run the grass just a little bit there to stop the car from drifting too far wide. Same again in the second part, but we keep it nice and tidy. Alonso there putting in a flyer up at the front, and we're risking running curbs through that double left-hander, but again enough traction to just kind of push ourselves on And as you can see, 0.6 of a second up at the end of the second sector as well. Little drift leading onto the back straight.
You're nearly out of fuel.
Almost
out of
costing
fuel.
us time,
You need to dip in
however,
the next 2 laps.
we've got just enough traction to really push on. No DRS, no curves. This is always going to be where we're going to lose huge amounts of time in this circuit, especially in conditions like this where we can't use DRS. But as we get down to the hairpin, braking maybe just a little earlier than we want to, just to make sure we can get it turned in and we don't go too far wide again. Running the curbs is a bit of a risk. Coming into this final corner, carrying maybe just a bit too much speed here, bounce across the curbs, nearly lose the back end and have to just put the foot down. But we cross the line and improve.
Good. You're dropping off dramatically in the last 2 sectors. Great job. We're through to qualifying 2.
Well, it turns out rain was the great leveller. We sneak through into Q2, P16, just ahead of the cut-off point. I say just ahead, 1.3 seconds clear of Paul Di Resta, who drops out with Barrichello, Knatke, Glock, Trulli, Liuzzi, and D'Ambrosio. D'Ambrosio 10 seconds off the pace. I felt like I was finding my feet a little bit in the conditions. Car still at a disadvantage, no curves, whereas everybody else can kind of use that to their advantage down the straights and things like that. I'm left just waiting for the power to kick in. Q2 might be as far as we get, but it's our first Q2 appearance of the season, which is already an achievement for Team Lotus. So let's get into Q2 and see what we can do. In the garage then, for Q2 at the Chinese Grand Prix of 2011, we're already surpassing the team expectation, and making Q2 is still an achievement, even if it was only 16th. The rain really helping us out, but we're still a lot slower than a lot of the guys around us, so I don't expect us to pull out a miraculous Q3. But let's go out there, see what our fastest lap can net for us here. Fastest lap in Q2 then. As you can see, the conditions are getting a little bit better. The rain is easing off a touch. It would be intermediate by the end of Q2, but we just couldn't hook the lap up on the inters. Run really wide into turn 1. You can see there are plenty of cars out here making a go of it early. As far as I know as well, I think I was the only person to try and set a lap on the inters at the end of the session, which, like I say, we couldn't hook up, and so I think we would have just about made it into Q3. First person to set a time, it's a 27.4 through the first sector. Not great, but not bad either. Pushing on as hard as we can now. Not taking quite so much grass through this corner, but having to just lift off a few times really to get the car turned in. Taking a wider line, bit of a slingshot through the right-hander. And not so liberal with the curbs through this double right-hander here. Heading down now towards this little complex to the back straight. 59.1. This time not so eager on the throttle. Keep the car pointing arrow straight there as we head round this corner. And again, like it very much will be the story with not just qualifying but the race as well. Just waiting down here, not having any opportunity to really push the car, get any more speed up. But we brake nice and early for the hairpin once again, just to make sure we're not overcooking it. Catch the curb on the outside a touch, which does unsettle us and push us a little wide through exit. But we're able to push on, and we get neatly through the final corner this time. Wouldn't be able to improve on this time through the rest of the session, but where did it get us?
You've moved up to third.
So our qualifying comes to an end in Q2, and marginally as well. We were given an opportunity to say, get on some inters just before the conditions changed. Right at the end, we got across the line with seconds to spare. Just couldn't marry the lap up to the tyres. But look at that, we are marginally away from squeezing into Q3 in our Team Lotus car. But what a position to start in, especially if the weather remains the same as it was in qualifying. So close. I drop out with Maldonado, Rosberg, Petrov, Buemi, Kobayashi and Sutil, while Alguersuari, Perez and the usual suspects make it through to the top 10. And quite Nick, actually. Nick Heidfeld there in 10th. Probably where we could have started if we snuck through. But never mind. Onwards to the race. If the weather stays the same, who knows what we could do. Here we are then, in the garage for the Chinese Grand Prix of 2011. And that number there is not a fault. That's where we start. We are P11 after narrowly missing out on Q3 in our little Team Lotus car. The weather played its part, that's for sure, and I think if we just managed to get that final lap right at the death right, we might have even been able to sneak into Q3, but alas, P11 is as good as it gets. Still our first Q2 appearance of the season, and comfortably our first Q2 appearance of the season. But the rain is not here yet. There's a 78% chance of rain, which means that we're likely to see it during this race. But we start in dry weather conditions, which could prove problematic for us, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's take a look at the grid for this race. Alonso took pole from Webber, Hamilton, championship leader Massa in 4th. Then it's Button, Vettel down in 6th, Schumacher, Heidfeld, Perez and Alguersuari top 10. There we are in P11 with Maldonado, Rosberg, Petrov, Buemi, Kobayashi and Sutil behind us. And then those out in Q1, De Resta, Barrichello, Kartikayan, Glock, Trulli, Liuzzi and Jerome D'Ambrosio bringing up the rear of the field. Well, let's take a look to see what it says for this. It's 78% chance of rain. So we're expecting it at some point in this race. But starting on the dries, no curves, not really the pace to compete car to car against the guys we're up against at the front. But we've seen races like this before. We saw them quite a few times in 2010. Korea near the end of last season springs immediately to mind, where we started well and just managed to hold ourselves in a position that probably we shouldn't have been in until a mistake threw us where we should be, which was down at the back. I mean, that race led to disqualification, so let's maybe not dwell on that too much. But I guess the hope here is that we can maybe match, if not better, our Malaysian result, which is still outside the points, I know. But let's go with that. Let's say P15 is our objective. But if we can get a good start and hold position early, maybe with some robust defensive moves, and then the rain comes, we might be able to then level out the playing field a little bit. Fingers crossed for that rain then. Let's head to the grid for the 2011 Chinese Grand Prix. There's Alonso on pole. We're in 11th, right in the middle. Trulli down in 22nd. Got to get a good start here.
Last race we finished mid-table. We need to try and do better than that. Let's give this 100%.
Near Andy going straight for the do better than mid-table in your Lotus. Alguersuari immediately comes across. We're going to have to swerve out the way as the lights go green. We're into the points. Good start. We're up at the inside of the Lotus Renault. We've run wide. But we will regain those positions. The concertina effect into turns 1 and 2 really not doing the AI any favours, and we are P6 with Jensen Button behind us. And we're looking at the inside of Sebastian Vettel here. This is going to be one of those circuits the AI just don't like. I run maybe a touch wide in the wash. Yeah, Button's going to go past. We'll stay on his inside though. We managed to maintain that P6. At least for now, but we're going to be looking at our mirrors an awful lot here. As Massa, Hamilton, Vettel, I think that is. Having a little tussle up ahead. That's 6th, 5th, 4th and 3rd, should I say. We are 6th. Going to need rich mix here, because that McLaren is going to storm up behind us. It's going to be gone well before the break-ins, though. But if we can stay with him and then just outbreak him into the hairpin, which is exactly what we do. We outbreak ourselves though. So Button's back through, down to 7th. And then very wide through the last corner. Across the line, P7 and ahead of a Lotus Renault. There goes Heidfeld again. Just don't have the grip to be able to fight them. We'll do to Heidfeld what we didn't manage to do to Sebastian Vettel, and that was get back up the inside there. Oh, Heidfeld's lost a little bit of front wing end plate. They are all over me here, and Alguersuari now past Heidfeld. We're going to be leading quite the train of cars, and we're going to smell blood here. So we'll find out in a minute as I run very deep there. And that looks like a detection line to me. DRS is here. Oh, Rosberg smashes into Alguersuari. There he goes in the Mercedes.
Okay, we lost that position. Put some pressure on him and try to get it back.
Can I fight him back? Out the hairpin, not quite.
The car behind has minor front wing damage.
May have just driven Rosberg off the road now, but we keep the position. He's gone. Heidfeld now.
Webber's
Having a look,
really
he's
going
back
for
with
it.
us.
He's just put up a new fastest lap.
Comes the Lotus.
Remember to use DRS to gain a speed advantage if you need to get past
And
someone.
Alguersuari. Oh, I got on the curb. Kobayashi's in there now as well. We've lost another place. We're down to 8th. Bumped wheels with Kobayashi a bit there. Get on the power early enough to get back at the inside there, though. Alguersuari's going to disappear away, I think. Oh, very wide. Kobayashi will go off the road and we'll reclaim the position, at least for now. Quicker that Sauber is. In fact, everybody immediately behind us. So much quicker. I'll just sort of sit in the middle of the road and hope I can fight them back at the hairpin. Fortunately, I can get it stopped right on the apex. Nobody going in just yet.
The pits are clear. Now's a good time to pit.
Trying to get them to come in a lap earlier, but we're not gonna. We're gonna come in next lap. Kobayashi alongside before we even get to the DRS line. Heidfeld's going to be coming to attack soon as well. Bumped the back of Kobayashi as he crossed back of the line.
Currently,
force him.
we're 9 places above where we predicted. Let's carry this through to the end.
Force him to the edge of the circuit so Heidfeld gets through.
Pit in this lap. Come into the pits at the end of this lap. We think there's a chance of light rain in 10 minutes time. 10 minutes.
Rear end spinning up there. Allows Heidfeld to get through on the inside, but we're alongside the Lotus. And we just park it on the apex to regain 8th. Very much like Malaysia, we ran in this sort of position early doors and then we lost places during the pit stops as the rain is actually starting. Only 10 minutes, but we're going to have to pit now because these tyres are ruined. And if the AI are going to do
pit
that.
crew are preparing for a stop. We're not sure which driver it is yet. Don't forget, pit in this lap.
Kobayashi basically off the circuit trying to get past. Warning for that one, but that's fine. Parked it on the apex. Oh no! I can lose positions that way. Car just went straight on, wouldn't stop. We fall behind Kobayashi. Heidfeld in behind us. It's going to be all about if we get held up now. We don't. We actually jump Kamui Kobayashi.
Watch out for traffic as you rejoin the track.
Steady out the pits.
We fitted you with a set of the option tyres. Option tyres. You have 2 stops remaining.
Going option to option at the moment. With 2 further stops, but if this rain intensifies, which it's due to, or as Kobayashi now loses a front wing end plate, trying to get past. The AI will go for you everywhere. The rain intensifies, we'll be moving to winters and then maybe even wets. A little late into the hairpin.
Picked up some marbles. Expect reduced grip until you can wear them off. Stay on the racing line.
Bunch of cars in. I think a couple are going to jump me though.
There are quite a few cars in the pits right now. Watch out for cars exiting the pits.
Sergio Perez. We lost him a while ago, I think. Or was he still behind us? I think he was still behind us, but I was going to say just in front of us. We get back into the top 10. We've only lost a couple of places. It's all.
The car ahead is running on the prime tyre. We have an advantage here.
All kind of mixed up a little bit. Perez on the primes. We might be able to close him thanks to the tyre offset. We'll see. Obviously holding out now on this rain getting heavier. I'm starting to see spray coming off the tyres. Barrichello to the outside. Easy overtake with DRS. Didn't quite slow it down there though. Barrichello has got through.
Looks like there might be a bit of rain in the next couple of minutes.
He's on the prime tyres as well, is Barrichello. back out of the top 10. Back to where we started, and we've got Nico Rosberg all over the back of us at the moment. Lane is getting heavier.
Roger.
Rosberg, the latest to lose a bit of front wing, trying to overtake us. I don't know why they're diving in gaps that clearly aren't big enough. No losing time though. Mercedes should cruise past here. Ever closing gap through the middle. A little bit bumping and barging. Kobayashi's gone past us as well. What is going on in this stint? There goes Kobayashi.
Okay, the pits are clear. You should consider pitting soon.
Heidfeld trying to just force his way past me and Maldonado. They're able to just up and under me at the hairpin. Pushing Maldonado
Pit crew
along.
are ready for you at the end of this lap. Hit this lap.
Oh, and then we're wide.
Heidfeld should be coming in for tyres within the next 4 laps.
We have just lost 3 places in one corner. It's probably about to be 4. Oh, this has all gone so terribly wrong so very quickly.
It's
33 seconds
starting
out of
to rain.
trim.
It's just light at the moment, but if it worsens, we'll need to switch to inters or wets.
Very wide there. Pretty much just cancel the pit stop. Very much now in an absolute no man's land. Ahead of one of the Lotus cars though. Small victories in that battle, I guess. There's definitely a dry line, but it is getting damper. So, I'm essentially going to be the guinea pig here. As I spin, that's really not going to help matters. Oh, come on, get phased the right way. Rears are cooked. I mean, what's the what have I got to lose at this point? In we come. We're going to take intermediate tyres. We're now a lap down as well.
Go.
There goes Vitaly Petrov.
You're on intermediates. Only one stop to go.
Way ahead of the other new teams. Right, we'll get back ahead of Petrov. We've unlapped ourselves. I do believe, having had a little check of Range Director, that everybody is now moving to the intermediate tyres, so
Jarno is in the pits.
we at least got them on the right time, but
Blue
unfortunately
flag
not going to mean an
conditions.
awful
Let the
lot.
car immediately behind
As
through.
well as
You're
goes
not
by.
racing him.
Oh, nearly into the back of him. There goes Alonso. Also on the intermediate tyre. Look, we can keep up with everybody on the inters. Overtaken Alonso. We need to get a move on, to be honest. Hamilton's way.
Weather reports suggest heavy rain in approximately 15 minutes.
Heavy rain incoming, but I don't think it's going to affect this race. Not with the amount of time left.
You need to let the car behind you past. He's not racing you for position.
Where do you want to go, Seb? There he goes. Button and Massa.
Blue flag conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing him.
So much time letting these guys lap me. I'll be on my gearbox soon enough. Heavy rain incoming, but it's still not going to affect this race. And then Petrov right there. Such as getting out of everybody's way. He tries to send it at the hairpin. Brave move from that far back. Oh no, we catch the curb and we spin the car.
You've taken some slight damage to the front wing. You should be okay to stay out.
Petrov's gone.
Okay, DRS is now disabled due to wet weather tyres.
People coming in for wet tyres? Surely not. No, that's just a really delayed radio call. I just feel like maybe it is wet conditions.
Roger
We're
that.
far enough in front of knowing Kartikeyan and we can do this. We're not going to catch Petrov, so we're going to box, slap some wet weather tyres on and just run to the end. Probably repair the front wing as well. Repairing the front wing.
Go now. You have no more scheduled pit stops, so look after your tyres.
Lapped by some of the
You need
guys
to let the car behind you
that we were
pass.
fighting
It's not
earlier.
racing you for position. There's a good chance there'll be heavy rain in around 5 minutes.
So then we come on to our final lap of this Chinese Grand Prix. We are obviously a lap down, and I think the only car out there at the moment on the wet tyres, but as you can see, time-wise, doing us actual favours. But we're in the middle of nowhere. We're so far behind Petrov that we're never going to catch him. We're so far in front of Kartikeyan that we're more likely to lap him, although it would need another 30-odd seconds. Very much, I think, a race of what could have been as Mark Webber crosses the line to take a victory. Our defending champion from F1 2010, keeping himself in the hunt already. But we were running as high as 6th, fighting Vettel and Button through these corners early doors. And while I knew we'd never have the pace to keep them behind, we managed to battle with the likes of Kobayashi, Heidfeld,
Blue flag conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing here.
Rosberg, Perez, Sutil, Schumacher at one point as well. Maybe going prime option at the start was a bad idea, trying to hold out to the switch to inters. Maybe if we'd gone option prime like everybody else, we would have been in a better position to capitalise. If the race had started in conditions like this, we may have had an even better opportunity. But still the best of the new teams, P19. There we are, P19. Ahead of Kartikeyan, Glock, D'Ambrosio, Trulli and Liuzzi, which you'd kind of expect. As you can see, our fastest lap, we're good 2 to 3 seconds faster than most of those guys, but still not close enough to the likes of Williams, Lotus, Force India, Toro Rosso. As we saw, Mark Webber took the victory for Fernando Alonso, and then Lewis Hamilton, Vettel 4th, Button 5th, Massa, who was championship leader, in 6th. Then it's Alguersuari, Perez, Rosberg gets his first points of the season, and Schumacher in 10th. Then it's Di Resta just missing out on the points. Kobayashi, Heidfeld, Buemi, Barrichello, Sutil, Maldonado, Petrov. Yeah, very much a tale, I think, of what could have been. You can see we started 11th. We had a fantastic start to move into the top 6. And as I say, fighting with the likes of Button and Vettel and even at one point Fernando Alonso. But we were always going to go backwards. Managed to come out of the pits, the first pit stop phase, still in the top 10, holding on. But going option, I think was a strategy bungle. I think that ruined it. Trying to stretch a set of options out to when the rain was heavy enough to move to inters. We moved to inters a lap early and we're fine. moved to wets near the end after spinning, losing a place to Petrov. One of only a couple of mistakes this season in terms of actual on-track mistakes. Shows you the difference in 2010 to 2011, else we would have been around a lot during 2010. Were points on the table? Possibly not starting in the dry. But could we have matched that 15th from Malaysia? Yeah, probably. But we lost 4 spots in a couple of corners at one point, and that was it. Backwards we went. So our worst result of the season so far, but only obviously 3 races in, an 18th, a 15th, and a 19th. What does that do for us? Well, we slipped to 19th in the drivers' standings, now behind Barrichello, but still ahead of Glock, D'Ambrosio, Kartike and Trulli Luyurtsi. Maldonado, Sutil, Di Resta, Kobayashi, all with 8 points, and then the 13 scorers. Buemi, Heidfeld, Rosberg moving up into 11th behind his teammate. Perez, Alguersuari, Petrov there in 7th, but still cut some way off that top 6. Mark Webber now moving to the top of the standings by 10 points from Felipe Massa, who he took that off. Massa himself only 3 ahead of Vettel, who's 5 ahead of Alonso and Button, and then Hamilton further 7 back. But the top 6 kind of in their own battle, as you'd expect the Red Bulls, the McLarens and the Ferraris to be. In the Constructors, we remain 10th ahead of Virgin Racing and HRT, just behind Williams and Force India, the only other teams not to score, which means a point at the moment would catapult us above what would be in 2011 a Force India team in transition, not quite where they ended up, and not quite as bad as they were in, say, 2009, and a Williams team also very much in a bit of a transitional phase, not quite as fast as they'd get in 2012, and especially not as fast as they'd get a bit later on when it's the Martini Williams racing team. Sauber there in 7th, 2 points behind Mercedes, and it's Toro Rosso. Lotus Renault in 4th, way behind McLaren, who are 3rd, but Red Bull lead the Constructors by 15 points from Ferrari, who themselves have got a 15-point buffer over McLaren. Our top 3, much like they did in 2010, probably going to disappear away, and then the team in 4th and the team in 5th. As the season progresses, you'll probably see find themselves in their own little bubbles before everybody else battles near the back. But that was round 3, that was China. We are still yet to break our points duck, driving for Team Lotus. You know, I still feel it's possible, but that 80 points that we scored for Virgin Racing looks nigh on uncatchable in 2011 already, although we would have only had 1 point this time in 2010, so we're only 1 point worse off. Next up, though, the Turkish Grand Prix, and if I remember correctly, the final Turkish Grand Prix on a full race calendar, obviously made its brief return in 2020 during COVID, where Lewis Hamilton took his record 7th world title in mixed conditions. But we won't get to drive it in 2020. This, I think, 2011 is going to be the last chance saloon to drive Istanbul Park, a circuit we did really well at in 2010. Actually, much like this, mixed conditions, driving through the field, just having a little bit of pace in certain places and at certain points of the Grand Prix to come home in 7th, I think it was. So, with any luck, we can replicate that. But this car is seemingly making life more tricky for us. Hopefully you'll join me for Turkey, and hopefully we can have another great showing at Istanbul Park. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. You know the drill by now. And I'll see you for the next one.